I'm Eileen with OTEL Talk, and today I have with me Kevin Strauss. And Kevin is the founder and CEO of Uchi, which is a social app dedicated to helping people connect authentically by making conversations easy and fun. Kevin is an expert problem solver and has earned 75 plus patents and 10 plus publications in spine, infection control, psychology, and behavior change. Uchi is his approach to helping strengthen relationships, reduce conflict, and improve behaviors. When not working, Kevin enjoys expedition backpacking, ballroom dancing, and is a 19-year Ironman triathlete and coach. Oh my gosh, Kevin, you have quite a background. So, yeah, what would you like to talk about first? Because there's so many things we can go into. What's important to you right now?
Oh, wow. What's important to me? Well, first, thanks for having me on your show. What is first and foremost right now is really all about the emotional health and connection. When we're talking about this really challenging time with the global pandemic and all the physical distancing that's going on, but also with the boiling up again of racism and how overtly presenting racism is right now. We're really struggling. I think humanity is really struggling as a species, and I think emotional health is really at the root of all of it.
I can agree with you, and that there's a lot of stress, a lot of fear, a lot of anger. So, of all the things that you do, what do you feel applies the most to helping humanity in that context?
Yeah, so I think it comes down to humans' basic needs. And when our basic needs are not being met, that's when we struggle the most. And I think, well, to put it, this is just where I've come from, after like 20 years of digging into this. I have slightly different definitions for the different elements of health than what most people have. I'd be happy to share them with you. But when it comes to just the human condition, it's really our basic needs. And when our needs are not met, then we experience pain. And basically, a human will do anything to avoid pain. And in the absence of knowing how to actually address a specific need, we turn to behaviors to try and ease that pain. And that's how we try to compensate. And a lot of times we think of it as our mental health, but I don't see it as our mental health at all. I see it as our emotional health. And while they interrelate, mental and emotional are two very different elements of your well-being.
That's interesting. I'm not sure I've heard someone separate the two. So what?
And I think that is one of the biggest problems with health, right? So I cut you off there. Sorry about that.
Okay.
But
I forgive
I think
you
I knew
this
where
time.
you were going with that. It's a lot of times when we talk about health, we're really just talking about physical health. That's usually what comes to mind first. And in the last 5 or 10 years, there's my COVID cough, right? In the last 5 or 10 years, mental health is getting a lot more play, which is a great thing. But I see a person's well-being as having 4 real primary areas. There's a lot of different models for well-being, but I've boiled it down for what works for me is physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Physical, we don't really need to talk about because everyone pretty much understands your physical. I mean, it's basically your existence, right? You're surviving, you're alive, because if you're not alive, nothing else really matters at that point.
Well, true. Right? Nothing's happening if you're not alive.
Nothing's happening, right? So physical health, is there. And there's always, a whole spectrum of how physically healthy you are or are not, or how healthy with any of the areas of health. The definition that I choose for mental health is a person's ability to focus, concentrate, think clearly, perform cognitive tasks. It's really your thinking ability, okay? The definition that I really like for emotional health is a person's ability to give and receive love. Mm-hmm. And by love, I mean love, connection, and belonging. It's your feeling ability. Not to be confused with emotional intelligence, which is also very important, but different. Emotional intelligence is really your ability to acknowledge, recognize, and manage your emotions. So managing your emotions is very different than your ability to give and receive love.
Okay, so you got a good point.
And again, by love, I mean love, connection, and belonging. That all kind of goes together.
Right,
which, if you look at like Maslow's hierarchy, you know, that's a basic need is love, connection, and belonging. So that's really the root of the issue that I see, is that when we don't feel loved, when we're struggling to receive love, it hurts. It's painful. Like when you get dumped by a boyfriend or girlfriend, when you get rejected by your social group, when you are shamed or judged by your parents for whatever reason, it hurts. It hurts your feelings. When you don't get a job, it hurts your feelings. And, you know, I remember before COVID began, I was given a presentation on emotional health and connection and all. And I asked the audience, how many people, you know, raise your hand, how many people struggle to receive a compliment? And every hand except for one went up.
Yeah.
So if a person struggles to receive a compliment, then that means they struggle to receive love.
Yes.
So basically 99% of the audience struggles to receive love. And if we don't learn how to receive love, like as a child, then we're really going to struggle to give love also, because we haven't learned how to do it. So not only will we struggle to give love to others, we struggle to give love to ourselves. And how many people are so hard on themselves that they don't even love themselves? But where we really get off track as well is we've been taught, it's basically a known truth, I'm air quoting, a known truth, that we have to first love ourselves before we can love anyone else. But that is fundamentally incorrect.
Okay.
Because as we are raised, when we're born and as we are raised through childhood, we know nothing about self-love. We're not self-aware for at least the first 6 years of life.
Right.
But we most certainly know the love of our parent, or not getting the love from our parent. So if we don't first learn how to receive love, like from our parent, then we're going to struggle to receive love throughout our life.
Right.
And we're going to struggle to give ourselves love and give love to others.
So what I hear you saying then, in that context of love from parents up to age 6, from your understanding and what you share and what you teach, in order for us to love ourselves, we have to have experience, or it would be likely to have had the experience of receiving love first, to understand what it feels like, what it means, what it looks like. So then we understand how to love ourselves.
Right. I mean, how can you show love if you've never learned if you never even learned what it means to get it?
Right. Yeah.
How can you teach if you haven't learned?
Right. And that's a different way of looking at it. And I guess
I tend to think outside the box.
Right, you do. But that also makes me think about the autonomy stage, because that kind of plays along with the love that you're talking about. Because if a person has not developed that sense of self and being autonomous at the stage that's part of our development, then they're always looking to be autonomous, and perhaps it's combined with understanding what love really is. Because many people as adults probably really don't know what love is. If you ask people, do you love yourself? There's probably at least 50% or more who says, well, what do you mean? Oh, I can't answer that, right? So it
right.
may go back to what you're saying, is that they didn't receive the love either they needed, or that was their love language, or, whatever was part of their ability to understand what love is. Interesting.
Exactly, exactly. And what's happening is, again, I'm doing some generalization here, but when a baby is crying, day one, literally day one of life, a baby is crying, what do? We say, shh, you're okay, right?
Right.
So we shush that baby. What we're doing is we're teaching that baby not to emote. And
Mm,
we're teaching that baby it's not okay to express your emotions.
right.
We're teaching that baby to push those emotions down and don't share how you're feeling. And then we add insult to injury by, well, really, we're rejecting that baby, right? And we're adding insult to injury by telling them you're okay. So we're telling another human being how to feel. And no one
Mm,
person can ever tell another person how to feel. You feel however you need to feel. Just do that.
right.
What we could be doing is saying something like, I hear you. I'm here for you. And
It's all
that
about the
allows,
wording. It's all
it's
about
all
the
about the
wording.
wording, right? Your words matter. So, it's just those little nuances that help that baby feel safe, feel loved. Um, but we've just never really, this has just never been a priority for our species. I mean, we've been basically, right? So
Right.
humans have been on this planet, Homo sapiens have been on this planet for 200,000 years, right?
And look where
That's,
we're at today.
well, and look, yeah, right. So 200,000 years. But even as little as 150 years ago, the late 1800s,
Hmm.
humans could not reliably source food. They
Right.
could not reliably preserve food. We didn't have refrigerators.
Right.
We didn't even know if we were going to make it through the winter. So our entire existence, our entire priority was survival. That's all we
Mm,
cared about. So we've never really nurtured or learned how to nurture each other emotionally. Now, sure, couples get together, they've been having babies and, raising families for, millennia. But it's always been like a side product. It's never really something that's actively nurtured. So we struggle to know how to really do it. And when we don't get that emotional nurturing, that love that we need, it hurts. And the brain cannot distinguish between physical pain and emotional pain. The
right.
brain activates the same way in these like two spots in your, I think it's in your left hemisphere or right hemisphere. I'm not sure which side, but in two spots in your brain. And again, a human will do anything to avoid pain. So in the absence of knowing how to actually connect emotionally and authentically, we turn to behaviors. We try and ease our pain some other way. We might numb it with drugs and alcohol. We might avoid it by staying busy at work or busy in our lives. We, um, we do all manner of behaviors. Any behavior really is more a indication of a person's state of emotional health than anything else.
And oh gosh, yes, you've said so much, and my mind's been like,
Sorry,
no, that's great.
I tend to go on
My
a little
mind's
bit
been trying to
about
think,
that.
no, 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 but it's all good content. And, I think the bottom line is it's all about, as an adult, whatever the background has been, whatever your experience has been as an adult, to recognize that love quotient. What does that love mean to you? And then how that impacts your communication, and how that impacts how you have self-worth, self-value, self-confidence. And how
Mhm.
many times do we give people compliments, and how many times do we receive a compliment, right?
Right,
It doesn't
right,
happen that often. And then
right,
we often, when we hear it, it doesn't feel comfortable. It's almost
right.
like we don't deserve it. And so there's a lot of undoing that we have to do in order to become who we are, which is an element of love, that we are
Yeah.
this
And,
being.
and
Yeah.
that's how humans are designed. Not only humans, but mammals,
Right.
are designed for love. The hormone oxytocin, that's like the love hormone, the bonding hormone.
Right.
That's we have that for a reason, because humans, we'll just talk about humans rather than mammals in general, but humans thrive when they work together, when they collaborate, when they feel connected, when they are connected. When we work in a silo, when we work isolated, well, back in the day, thousands of years ago, or even hundreds of years ago, if you were rejected from the tribe, that's pretty much a death sentence.
Right.
Trying to survive on your own, it's really, really hard at best.
Yes.
So we do a lot better. Not only do we survive, but we can thrive. I mean, think about the last time you fell in love, or when you really felt that love from somebody, or that support from someone, that real emotional support. And it's like a boost of energy, like, oh my gosh, I could do anything now, like,
Right.
yeah, I was thinking about doing this triathlon, but if I go to a triathlon by myself, it doesn't even compare to when I have a couple of friends cheering me on at that
Right.
race,
Right.
like having that pit crew, I call it. And when they're there, just to see you, just knowing they're there, they might see you for like 3 seconds throughout an entire 6-hour race,
Right.
but just knowing that they're there supporting you gives you this incredible boost of energy and confidence and ability that I can do it, and they're there with me, and they've got my back if something doesn't go well.
So I'm glad you brought up the triathlon. So I'd love to step into your world as a 19, is that it? A 19-time
19
champion?
year. No,
19
not
year.
champion. I am not a champion. No, no, no.
Ironman Triathlete and Coach. Okay. So tell me about that. What's that been like? What got you started to become a triathlon and continue to be in the training and being a coach?
Yeah, so that's really it's a kind of a funny story, I think, to how I got started. So I got started with triathlon because a friend of mine said, "Hey, you want to do a triathlon?" And I'm like, "No." And and she's like, "Oh, come on, come on. It's just a sprint, it's not very far. We'll do it together. It'll be great." And after some, you know, pushing me on it, I finally said, okay, fine. When it's time to register for the race, you let me know and I'll register with you. Thinking that she would never actually call me on it, because it was a long time off. It was like more than 6 months away, and it was actually even longer than that. And so I'd forgotten all about it, and then it was time to register, and she's like, "Hey, Kevin, it's time to register. We're gonna do it." And I'm like, oh my
Oh,
God, because I didn't know how to swim.
really?
And that's the first leg of the triathlon.
Oh my goodness. What did you do?
Well, so I could always tread water and I could breaststroke, but you don't want to breaststroke through a
No.
whole, like through a race. Like that's just not what you want to do. In fact, I had to pass a swimming test just to graduate from college at North Carolina State. That's a requirement. But to pass a swimming test, you really just have to get from one end of the pool to the other any way you want and back, and then tread water for like 10 minutes and you pass the test. So I could do that. That's fine. But I couldn't actually swim like freestyle stroke. So I just committed to going to the pool. Oh, and I should also say I've always had issues like with fear of water, like getting tackled by a wave and drowning. And I think all that comes from my brother always always dunking me
I was
in the
gonna
pool.
say trying to
Yeah,
hold your
like
head
trauma.
underwater, right?
Yeah, keeping me underwater. So I was 31 years old, and a good friend of mine grew up swimming. So we went to the pool together, and literally just sat on the bottom of the pool blowing bubbles, because I could never like equalize the pressure between like my nose and my ears and everything. Like it just didn't work. So 31 years old, we're sitting on the floor of the pool, just blowing bubbles. And I just started, and I committed to going to the pool 5 days a week for 2 months straight, and I didn't miss a single day.
Oh, wow. That's
And
dedication.
well, when you make a commitment, I'm really good with commitment. So I committed. Um, so I started with just 30 minutes of breaststroke back and forth. And then I worked in like one length of the pool of freestyle, but it was horrible.
Oh.
It was just horrible. I mean, I'll show, it was like, I'd be facing the water and then I'd put my face in the water, try to breathe. It was terrible, but eventually and so I would do like one length of freestyle and 3 lengths of breaststroke. And I would just do it for 30 minutes and I'd get out of the pool. And eventually I worked up to, I could swim 30 minutes of freestyle.
Oh, good for you.
And do that. So I do that. Then I went on a 3-week backpacking trip and then came back, and the race was that next month. And we went to the race and they canceled the swim.
Oh, no. After all that. Oh, gosh.
After all that, they canceled the swim. And I didn't train for the bike or the run like at all. And I was riding the bike on a mountain bike that had front suspension with knobby tires. So it was kind of miserable. But we finished, or I finished. Oh, and my friend who made me sign up, she didn't do the race because she got sick.
And so what motivated you then to continue doing it since you had such an awful first experience?
So that was pretty not fun. Or it wasn't that it wasn't fun, it was just disappointing because I'd done all that training to learn how to swim. So then I found out about the Columbia, Maryland Triathlon. And I live in Columbia, Maryland, and the start finish is only 1.5 miles from my house. And I heard about it and I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's coming up in the spring, because this first race was in the fall. That's coming up in the spring. So I'm like, oh, I'm totally registering for that because I want to do a full triathlon. I learned how to swim. I'm doing a triathlon. So I trained for that, and I could train on the course.
Right.
And it went great. I had a goal of 3 hours, which is a pretty solid goal for an Olympic distance triathlon. An Olympic distance triathlon is a 0.9 mile swim, a 25-mile bike, and a 6.2 mile run, a 10K run.
Wow.
So I trained on the course, and my goal was like, I knew I'd finish it because I was training on the course so much. And then as I was getting my times, through training, I was like, oh, I think I could do it in 3 hours. So my goal was like a 3-hour time, and I ended up doing it in like 2 hours, 58 minutes, and like 30 seconds or something.
You just made
it. I totally nailed my goal.
You did.
And so that was great, but then I knew I could do better. Like I knew there were things I could work on and improve. So a year later, I did it again, and I did a little better. And then a year later, I did it again, and I got a little cocky, and I had a horrible race, and it wasn't better. So, and then it just kind of became a thing, that just a way to stay in shape. And then as time went on, I was like, I think I could do a half Ironman, like this Olympic, I've pretty much got that figured out. So I think I could do a half Ironman. And so I trained for the half Ironman. And so the half Ironman is a 1.2 mile swim. So it's only a little bit further, but it's a 56-mile bike ride and then a half marathon. So 13.1 mile run. So that's, a 6 hour half Ironman is a really good time. You're not going to win anything, but it's not easy to do.
Right.
Just like a 4-hour marathon is a really solid marathon. You're not going to win anything, but it ain't easy. And a lot of people have that 4-hour marathon goal, and it's really not easy to hit that. So it's really interesting. So my very first half Ironman, I trained, and I ended up doing it in like 6 hours, 0 minutes, and like 20 some seconds.
Oh my gosh, that was so close.
So,
You
well, to
putting
me, I consider that hitting the mark because
hitting the
it
mark?
wasn't
Okay.
601, it
Oh,
was
got it.
600.
6:00. Okay. Well, it sounds like
So,
you're pretty on target with when you put your mind to something, you can be right on target with what your intention is. So
pretty good about it.
yeah. So that let's talk now then about the Uchi, because I'm sure that 19 years of what you've been doing for training yourself has also helped you with other areas of life, and the mental capacity, the awareness capacity, and then the drive to be successful in different areas as well. So I know
Yeah.
Uchi is something new that you've created, and it's off the ground. So share about Uchi. I'd like to hear more about that.
Yeah. So Uchi, it's really interesting. This whole world of emotional health and connection, it's really been like a conglomeration of my whole life kind of put together. Um, I've spent a lot of time. So my background is biomedical engineering, problem solving, and most of my career has been spent doing medical device R&D, and even more specifically, like designing implants for spine surgery or
Oh,
other orthopedic implants. So most of my career, most of my patents are in the area of implants and instruments for spine surgery, like spinal fusion, lumbar, cervical, minimally invasive, scoliosis, deformity, all that. And through the whole engineering life, we learn how to solve problems. But what's interesting is they don't teach you how to solve problems they don't teach you how to be creative to solve problems in school. They
mhm.
teach you how to use an equation to find the acceleration of a bullet that's flying, or how much, the people who remember calculus 2, how fast does the brine solution flow out of a barrel if there's a hole with a diameter this big? It's that kind of thing. They don't teach you how to be creative. That I learned really from my father, who I grew up, being his little helper, and, helping him fix the dishwasher, the washing machine, add an addition onto the house, add another addition onto the house, restore a 1968 Mustang convertible, cut the grass, landscape, do woodworking for pretty much everything in the house, building tables and chairs and benches and all this kind of stuff, right? So starting to put all this together, right? Engineering, medical device, creativity on solving problems around the house, and then a lot of time training. Although I don't tend to think a lot when I train, like for triathlon, that's more of a meditative, clear your mind. But being able to clear your mind opens it up for your subconscious to do its work, and then ideas just like come to you
Right.
when your mind is more free, when we're not busy, busy, busy all the time. Another part of my career was in doing behavior modification research and helping people change behaviors. So thinking about why people do what they do, and that's another question that came about. I'm a little all over the place here, but that's how my life has kind of been. Um, Thinking about, when I got into the workforce, corporate America, um, it was only a couple months in, and I'm like, how is America a superpower? Because no one wants to do anything. No one wants to take responsibility for anything. No one wants to volunteer for anything. No one wants to help anybody out. Why are people doing what they're doing?
And how are we
I don't
functioning
even
as
understand it.
right.
Yeah, yeah. How do we even function? So that's another question I had. And then thinking about my dating life, why is it not working out, with one woman after another woman after another woman? What's going on? Why are all these relationships not really going anywhere? So bringing all of this together, um, and thinking about, really, why do people do what they do? Why do I do what I do? Why do people behave the way that they behave? um, it was when, this is a much longer story, right, than I was planning on telling you.
That's okay. It's interesting.
It's thank you. Um, so what happened, the real light bulb went off when I was watching a father and his teenage daughter just have this incredible argument. And I'm thinking to myself, if you would just say how you really feel and what you're really thinking, you would have no argument, because they just weren't really saying how they felt. And I was thinking, this was back in the right around 2000. Well, it was in 2001. So the internet was still kind of getting going. It was after the dot-com bubble and everything. And I was working at a little think tank doing this behavior modification work. And we didn't have a lot of people at the office. So I was writing a lot of emails with friends. And we were having these incredible exchanges of information, of ideas, of feelings, of thoughts, going back and forth for weeks, writing really long emails and really getting to know each other and developing really strong connections just from writing emails. And some of these friends I'd only met in person like one time. In fact, there was one friend who I'd never met in person. She was my boss's niece. And I'd asked my boss about a book, and he's like, oh, you should talk to Carrie. She knows all about that author. We started exchanging and having these incredible conversations. So I was watching this father and daughter have an argument, and I was like, I don't have these arguments with people. We just have these exchange of ideas. Granted, our exchange today is just me talking. So thank you for that. And and I was like, if people could just share what's really on their mind, then the conflict would probably not happen. So I was like, why don't parents and kids just write emails to one another? Well, they're not going to write emails to one another, right? That's just not going to happen, especially if they live in the same home, because they could just talk to one another. But if talking was really working, we wouldn't have this problem in the first place. Right. So over the course of the night, and by the time I got to work the next day, I had this idea, like, well, what if we just ask a couple of simple questions just to get the ball rolling and get everybody on the same page, and then everyone gets to share how they're thinking, what they're feeling, what their perspective is, and then the other person will actually read that and understand them. And that's how the whole idea for Uchi actually started out. So it's really that simple, just asking questions and reading each other's answers. But it's so simple, and it works amazing. I've published research on it showing that it strengthens relationships, showing that it improves depression. And depression is just one way a human will resort to manage their emotional pain.
Right.
They're not crazy, they're just in pain. And there is some good research out there showing, well, this is what I found when I started digging into this whole idea in 2001, is that a person who's struggling with alcohol abuse, there are studies showing that when that person feels more connected, their alcohol abuse improves. Someone who's struggling with drug addiction, when they feel more connected, their drug addiction improves. This is in the research. Someone who has an eating disorder, whether it's anorexia and bulimia or obesity, when they feel more connected, their eating disorder improves. I mean, how many people eat their feelings?
Not very many. Maybe I heard the question wrong. Say, what's the question again?
How many people eat their feelings?
Oh, a lot of people eat their feelings. Yes.
Everybody. I mean, yes. I do sometimes.
Emotional
for sure.
It's known as emotional eating.
It's emotional eating. Exactly.
Right.
So, they're not crazy. They're just in pain, and it feels good to have a piece of chocolate, have a little ice cream, have some pizza, have some French fries. It feels good now, but it has a detrimental effect down the road.
Exactly.
So we do all manner of activities and behaviors to try and manage our emotional pain, but we're not doing what we really need, which is connecting. And if we think talking is the way to do it, well, we've been talking for a long time, not just you and me today, but humans have been talking for a long time. If that was really working, then we wouldn't have this problem.
And we'd have a
So
happier society.
we'd have a much happier society. Exactly. Because what happens when we're talking? How often, what are we afraid of? What are we, like, psychological safety in the workplace? That's a big topic. What are we so afraid of? There's so much fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fear of what?
Rejection.
Roosevelt wasn't
Rejection.
exactly.
Not being heard and understood.
Rejection is exactly.
Yeah.
Being shamed, being judged, being neglected.
Exactly.
That's what we're afraid of. We're afraid of the emotional pain that comes along with sharing how you really feel.
So how does Uchi help that? Yeah. So how does Uchi help that? What does Uchi do? Tell me about, if I wanted to. People can download the application now, right? People can engage with it and use it. So tell me how that works.
Yeah, exactly. So Uchi, you download just like you download Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram. It's a free app on iOS and Android.
How do you spell it?
And you just download it.
How do you
Uchi
spell it?
is spelled UCHI.
Okay.
UCHI. It's actually a Japanese word that means in group or inner circle.
Okay.
So the whole idea around Uchi is to connect authentically with those who matter most to you.
Got it.
That's actually our mission statement. So it's really simple. On Uchi, there's a whole database of questions on all manner of topics. And all you do is answer questions whenever you've got time, answer a few here, a few there, and read your friends' answers. But there's a couple of rules on Uchi, right? So just by reading each other's answers, well, first, just by answering a question, you're journaling. And there's a lot of research and power of therapeutic power of journaling. So you're journaling, right? But you're just answering questions. So you don't have a blank page, like, what do I write about? You just answer a question. So anybody can do it. And there's no wrong answer because it's your perspective. Then when you read someone's answer or they read your answer, you get to hear their perspective. So you actually get a chance to slow down because it's only the written word. You can slow down and you can read and hear what that person's really saying.
That's cool.
You can hear their perspective, right? You can reread it. You can read it a third time. Oh, I missed a word. Let me read it a fourth time. Oh, it changes the whole meaning. Oh, now I get what they're saying. That doesn't happen in real-time conversation.
Right. Yeah, well, because we have to listen. We either have to listen.
Because we have listened.
Right.
Yeah.
Or, we already have the monkey mind going into a conversation, so we don't hear anything at all. And it's like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We don't hear. And how much does it hurt to not feel heard?
Oh, big time. Big time.
Big time.
It's huge.
Right? So I'll share this with you. So I shared all these different engineering and behavior modification and why do people do what they do? But you want to know what the real driver of Uchi is for me?
Absolutely. Yes.
I think the real driver is I never felt heard from my parents. If they would just listen to me, just hear me. And I never felt that as a child. I don't even feel that today. They still don't listen, except when we use Uchi.
Right. Oh, you guys.
And then oh my God.
Oh, that's
it's amazing.
Awesome. How cool is that?
Well, just like, hair club for men, like I'm not just the founder, I'm also a member, so, I should practice what I preach, right? So it's amazing. Like within about 2 or 3 weeks of using the platform, I noticed a significant improvement with my relationship with my parents, especially with my dad, because my dad and I just like butt heads. We get along great, but we also, your parents always know how to push your buttons.
Right.
But within about 2 or 3 weeks, I found that when my dad and I were actually talking, whether on the phone or in person, I felt like he was really listening to me.
That is amazing. How awesome is that?
It's so cool. And not only did I feel like he was listening to me, I was so much more patient with him.
Oh, probably because you felt like you were being heard and understood, and you weren't frustrated. Right.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Okay.
So here's what's really interesting too. So after a long time, this is a while back, but because Uchi was originally a different platform, it was a web-based platform. Now it's a full-on dedicated app and not on the web. We did the platform for 9 months straight, never missing a day. I didn't miss a single day in 9 months because I'm really good about commitment, right? And my dad probably answered questions 95% of the time, 95% of the days in 9 months. And my mom was about 75%. So it was really strong. It's really helpful to have that support. But we finally decided, like, oh, we've been doing this for 9 months. Let's take a break. Like we're good for now. Well, I'll tell you what, just like with your fitness, when you take a break from exercising, you lose your fitness, your physical fitness.
Mm-hmm.
Well, about 2 to 3 weeks after we stopped, my dad stopped listening to me and I stopped being patient with him.
He went back to the old pattern.
We went right back to the old, because it's just like your physical health. If you don't nurture your physical health on a regular basis, it will degrade. Right. Same with your mental health, same with your emotional health, same with your spiritual health.
Yeah.
So you have to nurture it on a regular basis. It's not a one-time thing, but you don't have to do it all at once. In fact, it doesn't really work very well when you do it all at once. You can't just cram for a marathon or cram for a triathlon. You can't cram for relationship health. Right. And how many people struggled? Like how many marriages fall apart because the two people say, oh, we just couldn't communicate. I don't think it's because they couldn't communicate. I think it's because they couldn't connect.
Listen to each other, right?
Well, if you don't listen, how are you going to connect?
Right. And also vulnerable. Allow yourself to be vulnerable. So it sounds like with Uchi, you can be vulnerable in a safe space.
It's a very safe space. So getting back to the Uchi itself, is one of the most important things about Uchi is the safety and privacy. So nothing that you do on Uchi is ever public. Only your Uchi friends can read your answers.
Well, that's nice to know.
And you can only read someone's answer if you've already answered that question first.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
So you have to be a contributor in order to be a consumer, which is unlike any other social platform out there, or even a group text message or Slack channel. You can have 10 people on a Slack channel and only 1 or 2 people are really contributing and everyone else is just consuming.
Right.
But it doesn't work that. So how do you have a relationship if you're not contributing?
Right. It's got to go both ways.
It's got to go both ways.
Yeah.
So on Uchi, you can only read someone's answer if you're friends with them and if you've already answered that question yourself.
Interesting. So where can people go to find that?
So just go to the App Store or the Google Play Store and you can just download it. Like I said, it's free. All you need is an email address and a password, and that's all you do. You get started. We don't collect any data at all, ever. We don't mine data. We don't do anything. You cannot even search for somebody on the platform. So you can't look up someone's profile. So again, back to the safety factor and privacy factor, the opportunity for cyberbullying and trolling and predators is virtually eliminated because everybody that you've invited into your Uchi.
Got it.
And the only way to invite someone in is by knowing their email address.
So is there a website with information about Uchi, or is it just the app?
Sure. So you can go to uchiconnection.com.
Okay.
And all the information there. And there's a link to the App Store and Google Play Store right there on the homepage, and you can download it. But yeah, it's great for all ages. If you want to submit questions, you can submit them so that anybody can answer the questions. But again, you can only see the answers of people that are in your Uchi network.
Right, and there's no limit to who can be in your community.
Actually, there is a limit.
There is a limit. Okay.
50 people.
Oh, that's enough to keep up with.
Well, exactly. So how many people have hundreds? I think the average number of Facebook friends is like 400, something around there, or having 1,000, tens of thousands of Instagram followers or Twitter followers or YouTube subscribers. Are you really connecting with those people?
I was going to say, how many do you really know, right? How many are truly people?
And that's not always the point of those platforms. Part of the beauty of those platforms is to spread your message to as many people as possible. That's great. but that's not what Uchi's about. Uchi's about connecting with those that matter most to you. And I'll just share this one other feature. Since Uchi is free and we have no advertisers and we have no investors, because we don't want to be accountable to anybody who's only interested in money, the way we make money is by people creating their own Uchi tribes.
Oh.
So an Uchi tribe is a way for you to create your own private set of questions, like a set of 10 questions, and invite a group of up to 10 people to join in answering those questions that you created as the leader. And the 10 people that you invite, they can be in network or they can be out of network. And if they're out of network, they do not have access to any of your regular Uchi answers. They only have access to what you're doing in that tribe.
Now, can those 10 questions be changed down the road?
Well, you can set up another tribe and do 10 new questions with the same 10 people, or make different people. But each time you set up a new tribe, you pay a fee.
Got it. Got it. Okay. But the questions will always remain the same in that tribe.
For that tribe, right.
Tribe. Okay. All right.
Right. And they just repeat. So it's great for like teachers and students, especially with all the physical distancing in schools. It's great for managers and employees because of all the, again, physical distancing and how do you really connect when you're that far away. And let's be honest, I mean, we're already seeing article after article coming out about Zoom burnout and video chat burnout. And there's a real challenge of this real-time synchronous communication.
Right.
There's an incredible benefit to the asynchronicity of using the Uchi platform. You can do it on your own time from anywhere in the world.
I like that. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing with us today, Kevin. It's been like you're just an amazing person with a very eclectic, interesting background. Any parting words on like words of wisdom that you'd like to share with people from your life experiences?
Well, I think first, just thank you for giving me this platform because I did a lot of talking and not a lot of listening today.
That's okay. You're welcome.
So thank you for that. I think, parting words is just think about just basic needs of humanity. What do we really need in life? And what are we not getting? And what we're not really getting, in my opinion, is this connection, this real, authentic, emotional connection. And I think once we start really connecting and hearing each other and valuing each other, that is when, it just makes us happy, and happy people do good things. So the more we can connect and be happy, the better our world will be.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better. So thank you, Kevin. And we'll do this again if you like. And we'll expand more on life and what the meaning of life is. So
thank you.
You're welcome. And have a wonderful rest of your day. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye. You're welcome.